big one. Real big one. That might be my PB. Get out of there. Get out of there. Oh my gosh. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're going to be doing another on the water video, day on the water, breaking down my decision making, how we're finding fish, baits we're using, everything to try and catch fish, figure them out, put those puzzle pieces together so that you can catch more bass using those clues that those fish give you as you're out there on the water. Today we're out on a local lake by my house. We only had a few hours, but it was a beautiful day out. I wanted to come out on the boat again. We're still fishing about like mid-April. Water temp it was 55 back in the little creek that we launched in. And then when I got out on the main lake, it was like 52. So it's a little bit colder out on the main lake. It's warmer back in the creeks. And the technique that we're probably gonna try and start with and probably end up using the most is going to be a jig. It's one of my favorite ways to fish, especially we've had records amount of rainfall all last week, all the week before that. It's flooded everything. A lot of fisheries are closed and you can't even go out and fish right now. But this one was open. The water is just dirtier than I've ever seen it. I've been fishing this lake since I was like 8 years old, and the water is absolutely filthy. I mean, it's 2-inch visibility, if that. It's absolutely disgusting. And we'll see if we can catch anything. It's a challenge in the springtime like this to catch fish because when that water's so dirty, they won't really move very far for a bait. Even though the springtime, they usually like to chase baits. You can catch them on reaction baits, everything like that. I'm not even gonna start with a reaction bait because when it gets that dirty, I mean, 6-inch to a foot visibility, that's pretty dirty. I would still feel comfortable throwing a spinnerbait, a crankbait, a chatterbait in water like that. But when it gets like less than 3-inch visibility, there's really nothing else you can use besides a jig. They hold so tight to that cover, they don't move. You got to get that bait right in front of them to get a bite, have to make the perfect cast, fish it slow. So that's what we're gonna try and do today and see if it works out for us. The other thing is it's so sunny and warm today that bank water is gonna heat up faster than everything else, as proven by the warmer water back in that creek there. So that kind of clued me in right off the bat that I knew those fish were gonna be up there shallow, and that's kind of why we started with what we did. But we're gonna get up on the front deck, get to fishing. I'm actually filming the intro just a little bit after because I forgot to do the intro, but we're gonna get back to fishing and continue to add on to the video that you're already gonna see right after this. So let's get to it. There's one. He's fat. Look at how fat that fish is. Look at that belly. His tail is so short, but he's like chunky. Not a bad one. We're gonna go ahead and let her go and get back to it. That bite was awesome. I literally was sitting in that wood right there, and then it just kind of like ticked it gently and swam right off the bank with it. All right, so the technique we're starting off with here today, given how dirty these water conditions are, like I said, I've been to this lake numerous times. Literally, I've never seen it this dirty, ever. And in the springtime, when you have 55-degree water temperature, these fish want to move up, and especially when they have nowhere else to live offshore, they want to get next to a piece of cover that they feel safe around and can basically hang out and wait for fish to come by. I'm seeing fish all over my live scope in front of this little beaver dam here. Not game fish, but like crappies, bluegills, even trout, shad. So there's a ton of food around for this fish sitting right here. And I mean, he was on the bank. So they will sit, I mean, it's 75, almost 80 degrees today and sunny. It's beautiful out. I'm in shorts and a t-shirt. Those fish will sit right on those logs there and absorb all that heat that's generating into the water, especially when it's this muddy. I've talked about this in a few videos recently, but it's super true in the springtime, and it's how I catch some of my biggest bass of the year. That was just the start of today, but I'm sure we'll catch many more, hopefully at least. I'll say that, and we probably won't catch another fish all day, but I just kind of work this jig around, and the biggest key is, one, fishing this as slow as possible, like I talked about in a video recently, and putting it in front of the fish where they live and making sure you're fishing where that heat is generating into the water. So we're gonna keep flipping this jig around, see if we can find us another big one like that. That's usually one of my keys to this technique right here in the springtime. Anytime you see these turtles come out in the summer or in the spring and they sun themselves on these logs, as soon as that starts happening, I promise you there will be bass shallow and biting. Oh, no, that's a fish. Oh, he came off as soon as I set the hook. I felt him shaking at the end there, and then he came off. Well, we're gonna go scare this turtle, but that's usually my key. I'll wait for them to come out on those warm, sunny days like that, and then you know that there'll be fish up shallow. If they're out sunning themselves, most likely the bass are gonna be up there sunning themselves too, which seems to be happening today. He's about to jump in the water because I'm getting too close to him, but there he is, little turtle guy. Big one, real big one. That might be my PB. Get out of there. Get out of there. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That was awesome. Oh, that is 100% the biggest bass that I've caught in Pennsylvania ever. Look at the size of that fish. There's no way that's not the biggest one I've ever caught in Pennsylvania. Let's check her out. If that's not the biggest, it's close. That was the most epic fight all over that brush and everything. I was just thinking about switching and throwing a crankbait because I was sick of fighting the jig. That did not happen. Oh my gosh, it's almost a 7-pounder. That is my new PB for Pennsylvania. 679. It's almost 7 pounds. I think we might need to get a picture of that one. So same thing with that jig so far. Let me get it out of the water here. I'll show you real fast. This is all we're doing. It's the same jig we've been fishing in all of our other videos lately. That's the 6 Sense hybrid jig. This is a 1/2 ounce, black and blue and green pumpkin, black and blue 6 Sense bongo on the back. And I'm just pitching it into all this heavy, dense cover. Like I've talked about, they're literally using this thing as a home, a wall, whatever you want to call it. It absorbs heat, puts it into the water. They sit right up underneath of it. So I skipped way back in over there, somewhere in there. There's that overhanging tree, a beaver dam right there. There's a creek coming in on this side somewhere over here that's pumping cleaner, more oxygenated water in after all this rain. It's pushing that out. It's still dirty enough to hold heat, but it's clear that they can see what's going on. I threw my jig up there. As soon as it hit the water, I watched my line shoot off the bank. It took off this way to the left. Set the hook, he had me tangled in all those trees, yanked him over that, brought him over to here, yanked him over that, and got him all the way into the boat. Very important. I've talked about it in a few of my videos so far on having the right gear, and that was proof right there of exactly why you want to have the right gear. If I was just using a 7.3 medium heavy 17, 15 pound test with this jig, no shot that fish was coming in that boat. He was wrapped in every single tree on here. I just yanked him right through every single one of them. It was still an awesome fight. I almost pulled a muscle in my back when I set the hook and had it way over the back of my head. But that was totally worth it. And we are 3 fish away from a mega bag here in Pennsylvania. If I wouldn't have lost that other big one, we would have been 2 fish away from a mega bag. But we're gonna go see what else we can catch. We've literally only fished like 25% of the lake, so the options and opportunities are endless. I just realized this jig has a burr on it, and that's why I lost that fish earlier. So we're gonna cut this jig off and get a new one on, take a break for some water, and get back to fishing and flipping some wood. We're just being slow, methodical, picking all of it apart. I flipped this beaver dam that's sitting over here. I flipped literally right there, right there, right there, right there, got no bites. And then I flipped over here a couple times, didn't get any bites. I was getting ready to leave, and I figured I'd bomb one. I always pick the outside apart first, so I flipped here, 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 all in this stuff. So if I caught a fish, I wouldn't have messed up all the cover like I just did. And then the last shot you take is always deep, deep into the cover, which is what I did. I skipped it all the way back in there, and that's where she was hiding, a place that probably nobody has ever casted or very rarely casts. It was right back in there. There's also all these shad flickering around in here. Shad, crappie, whatever. They're like this big, flicking on the surface, little silver baits. So they're definitely definitely back in here feeding up and getting ready to spawn and just absorbing the heat in a nice sunny day. Literally tomorrow, if it was 30 degrees and it started blowing wind, that fish would leave that spot and go right back out onto the main lake because it's right around the corner. There's a big steep bluff bank on the other side. So that's all they're doing. That fish probably swam around the corner this morning as the sun's come up and sat back in here. The biggest thing that I can say is looking at the graph up here, the main lake was 52 degrees. By the time we got done fishing that bank within an hour, it was up to like 53, 54, and the backs of these coves are like 56, 57. So like just the difference between shallow water and the backs of these creeks is so much warmer. So that couple degree difference can make a huge difference this time of year. Probably an hour or so without a bite. It's been a little while. We are working our way up the lake right now. We're actually out in the wind. It's been very gusty all day today. I've been trying to fish back in some of these canals and pockets to get away from the wind, but now we got to work our way into the wind to try and catch some fish. And with the clues we've been given so far, the 2 fish that I have caught were back in little pockets and canals. So we're gonna go up the lake. The cleaner water is actually starting to flow in there because the water has now subsided, the rain has subsided, so cleaner water is starting to work its way down the creeks. So if you find a feeder creek, there's actually some cleaner water in front of it. Not too clean, but clean enough that you can still get some bites and maybe have a better chance of getting a bite. And also it has that warmer water up those creeks. So we're heading that way to see if we can potentially catch some more fish by going up the lake instead of fishing in that like main lake basin area. Well, unfortunately, I just lost my jig and it's about time to get going because we got to get home for dinner. So I'm not going to tie another one on here. But I hope you guys learned a little bit about how to approach these springtime fish, catch some fish up here shallow. It's not a technique that you're gonna catch numbers of fish on usually. It's a big fish technique as you've seen today's video, as you'll see in this video right here that I'm gonna link right up above. If you wanna go check out how to fish this jig. One of my favorite ways to target big fish, try and catch some of the biggest fish of the year. And if you can really put together 5 fish in a day, you can have quite the bag of fish. We were on pace to have over 20 pounds today. Unfortunately, we only caught those 2 and lost 1 other. We only fished for 3 or 4 hours today. So if you really put a full day of fishing together doing this, it's slow, it's methodical, but it's definitely worth it here in the springtime. So if you guys enjoyed it, leave a like down below, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any more of my videos coming up. Fishing is just starting to get good. We're gonna be doing a lot more stuff coming up here. If there's anything you wanna see me make a video on, leave a comment down below and we'll be able to get out there and start making those videos. Thanks for watching.